Good morning, everyone. This is our video of a meeting with diatomists, who are sherry producers in, obviously in Spain, in Jerez. This is part of the London Wine Fair 2021, which, as we know, unfortunately couldn't take place in person because of obvious restrictions, but it did take place remotely online. And we have been fortunate to be in touch with Diatomists. We received some samples of the sherry productions, which you can see here. 3 of their bottles. They produce more, but we have 3 today. And we will be guided through a tasting by Thomas and Antonio, who are 2 of the founders and people who run these. There's a 3rd person, I understand, but you 2 are among the founders of Diatomists. And with that, I will stop and leave the floor to you 2 to tell us a bit about your project, how it started, what you're doing, why is it so special, what is a diatomist? I mean, I've read about it, but most people maybe don't know. And then we'll go through your wines. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Marco. Well, the first thing is we're not actually producers, we're a brand, and we work with 4 different producers, but I will tell you more about that later. And as far as Diatomists, so Diatomists is an art form, actually, of people who look for diatoms. Diatoms are single-cell organisms who live in the sea. It's one of the oldest forms of life. And they lived in the sea, and in the area where Jerez was, it used to be under the sea, and it was a perfect environment for diatomists to thrive. So they would reproduce, live, then die, and when they die, they would fall to the bottom of the ocean. And so many of them happened during that time between 5 million years and 50 million years ago, that the whole of the bottom was covered in diatom fossils, up to 400 meters in depth. So then when the soil rose above the sea level and Andalusia came to be, there's many areas, especially where the vines grow in Jerez, which are very, very rich in diatom fossils. And some contemporary enologists even argue that the more diatoms you find on the Albariza, which is the soil in Jerez, the better the quality the soil is. So we are a brand that wants to bring back the focus to the terra in the region, because for many, many years, the focus has been in the bodega and in the solar system. And because we want to bring the focus back to the terra and to the soil, then we came up with this name. Plus, we found Tommy dug very deep into this rabbit hole of the diatoms. He's a diatom expert now. And we found some man in Italy, Stefano, who's a diatomist, and we sent him a sample of the soil from Jerez, and he, with a microscope, he made 5 pictures of different diatoms, which we use for our labels. So that's the story behind the Diatomists. Yeah. And yeah, so today we're going to be tasting 3 of our 6 wines, and a Fino from Chiclana de la Frontera, and a Manzanilla. Both of them are single pago, which means that we can find the provenance of the grapes, and we have traceability of where the wines were grown. And the medium, which is 90% Oloroso and 10% Pedro Jimenez. And here I'll pass it over to Tommy, who's a much finer palate than I am.
No, yes, as Antonio kindly mentioned, what we are working with is we are working as negociant, so sourcing our wines from different small-size producers who also, for the biological age wines, for the very dry Finos and Manzanilla, they own their vineyards, and that there can be full traceability from the vineyard to the bottle, which is unfortunately not the common practice in the area, where there is a lot of blending among the wines of all the region. And what we wanted to showcase was the nice differences, interesting differences that there are among the specific sites and the best, what we think, sites in Jerez. So the first wine is our Fino. So as you see, we use mainly half bottles. We're a big fan of half bottles, 375 ml. They really are meant to be drunk in a sitting. Sherry or Jerez has this idea of being a fortified wine. It can be kept in the cupboard for once open for ages, and it's not really the case. A Fino or a Manzanilla should be kept and enjoyed as any white wine. So that's why we support the idea of smaller bottles, so people can have them in a single sitting. So the first wine is our Fino.
That's true for the, sorry, that's true for the first two wines, but as you get to older Soleras and so on, then you can keep them for longer once open the bottle.
Well, it's more, there's two big families of wines in Jerez, or three, I may say. One is the biological aged, which are the wines that are kept in the Soleras under a layer of yeast, which protects them from the oxygen, and that are the Finos and the Manzanillas, later on the Amontillados. And those wines are, let's call them white wines. They're made of Palomino, which is a white grape. They are vinified as a white wine, and then they are aged in this fractional aging system, which is the Solera system. But they are always protected from the oxygen by the layer of yeast, of flor. Then we have the second big family, which are the oxidative aging. So those wines also they made from Palomino grape, they are going to be fortified above 17% alcohol, which won't allow the yeast floor layer to develop. And the barrels, as they never fill to the top, they are always filled 5, 6 of the barrel. There's always going to be oxygen inside the barrel that is going to oxidize the wine. So yes, and a wine that has been oxidized, like an Oloroso, can be kept open for longer, because actually it's already been in contact with the oxygen for many years. Our medium that we'll try last has been in contact with the oxygen for 19 years. So yeah, if you leave it open 2 more weeks, should be fine. But anyway, if it's open, there's also going to be evaporations. So it's not about keeping them 6-8 months open in a cabinet, and hopefully our wines will be appreciated enough so they are quickly emptied.
That's not going to happen anyway, right? Once you open one of these.
Yeah, it's never happened to me, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, our Fino, as we said, it's 100% Palomino. It's a Fino de Chiclana. Okay, so Jerez, basically, like any wine region, is formed by different villages. Especially 9 villages here in the area. And the more southern part is a village called Chiclana, which is very, very close to the sea. So it's a seaport, and the vineyards are also very close. They are less than between 6 to 12 miles from the coast. And the aging happens in the village of Chiclana, which is by the sea. So that brings a big level of humidity to these bodegas and allows for the yeast to fully develop. And when we come here is with around 4 years average. Right? In Jerez, we always talk about average years of aging because it's the non-vintage wines. So they are blend of different vintages, and the average would be around 4 for this wine. Okay, so the tradition in Jerez is that the Fino would, if we compare it later with the Manzanilla, is that Finos tend to be stronger when, or more powerful wine when they are aged in Jerez city, which is more inland. Here we are in Chiclana by the sea. So what we are going to be looking is for a fresher style of Fino, and where there is a very nice, so it's of course, it's a very pale yellow straw color. And here what we're going to be looking is for a fresh, fruity style of Fino. Okay, so it is dry. It is a extremely dry wine with under 1 gram of sugar.
Yeah.
So it's actually, the fun in Jerez is that it's the driest and the sweetest, when you go to the sweet side, wines in the world. Here we are in Finos, we are almost at 0 grams of sugar per liter, because the yeast that develops on top of the wine will actually eat all the residual sugar left in the wine. As a living organism, the yeast needs nutrients, and one of them is sugar. Okay, so we have an extremely dry wine, but that keeps this fruity side of green apples, citrusy side, and combined with the slight bakery aromas of the yeast itself. Okay, but what we want here is to make sure that the fruit is still alive.
Yeah, definitely it is. What I feel quite prominent also is the sapidity. There is a very good sapid character of this wine.
Absolutely. Yeah, this really is all about vineyard here. Okay, so the best locations for the Palomino are in those areas that, as Antonio mentioned, are those planted in Albariza soils. So Albariza are very calcareous soils. As Antonio said, the diatoms pay big importance into that. We're talking at a limestone that is sometimes active limestone of above 30%, which is extremely high. A standard limestone soil is between 8 and 15. So when you go past 30%, this calcareous will bring this sapidity to the wine. Yeah. The yeast also plays a part in that, but it's very important to find the right vineyards here. And Albariza is an outstanding soil. I mean, there's very few areas in the world where they can have this high level of calcareous, call it cray in France. I mean, Champagne, Chablis would be the obvious examples.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Bourgogne also to some extent, yeah. But Chablis, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, out of the most exaggerated would be going there. And it's part of the same research, not being underwater for many millennia, has allowed this particularity, this particular soils to be formed. And here also the Albariza is fantastic, because don't forget, we are in the southernmost wine region in continental Europe. Mm-hmm. We are extremely south, parallel 36, where a lot of people would say, well, what are you? You should always be between 40 or 38 and 45 to...
Well, we teach in the Italian Association, we teach between 30 and 50, but yeah, 36 is getting close to the limit. There are exceptions, of course, but yeah, you're more in Sicily even, are you? Sicily or something?
We are
not the same.
A good call. I'd say we're very, very near, but that's why I mentioned continental Europe, so not to make a mistake of not using the islands, very because smart, then you also have the Canary Islands, which make fantastic,
that's
interesting
really south.
and others. Yeah. So yes, so why Albariza is what our rainfall here is not low. I mean, we are at 600 liters per year, which you compare with Ribera del Duero, which is 400, 450, or even Rioja, which is 500. It's high, but it all falls between October and March, let's say, or sometimes April. This April and this May has been 0. I mean, we are up to now in the driest spring in record, which is, it's a little too much.
That created problems for the producers?
We will see. We will see how there was good rains in winter, definitely. But yeah, we'll see how up to now the grapes are starting to develop. Being so south, we are one of the first areas where you go on the flowering to sorry, I have the names in Spanish now.
Is it allowed to irrigate in Jerez? Can you?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
The magic of it is the Albariza has great water retention capabilities, and it's like a sponge. And these, for example, this vineyard for this particular wine is very close to the sea, and the aspect is west. So even if it doesn't rain, you get when the wind blows from the Atlantic, the western wind, which is called the poniente, it brings a lot of humidity, and the soil so sucks that humidity. And during the very, very hot summer months, the Albariza, what it does is it gets a layer at the top, which basically gets hard, and underneath this layer, it keeps all the humidity from the winter rains. So the vines can dig deep down, and they can keep on getting more and more humidity to survive the very hot summer.
And it's not allowed to irrigate at all, even in an emergency.
At all.
0.
No, not in emergencies neither. And the truth is, as Antonio said, this soil is kind of the secret of being able to live in such dry months without rain, and the grapes fully develop and fully mature. So, but
okay,
because again, it's dry months and extreme heat as well. During the summer, you get temperatures above 40 degrees. But it works.
But at the same time, yeah, we are next to the ocean. I mean, we're next to the Atlantic Ocean here. When we're talking about being 8 to 12 miles from the sea, it's actually the Atlantic Ocean. It's not the Mediterranean Sea. We are on the other side of the Gibraltar Strait. So there's fantastic humidity coming when the west winds blow. When the east winds blow, we don't like those in summer. But when the wind blows, it's refreshing. You have moisture in the mornings, even if during the day you reach very high temperatures. You go in the vineyards and at 7, 8 a.m. and you see that there's humidity on the ground. That's then absorbed.
If it doesn't evaporate very fast, because
it does. They have to. They quick roots. And so we were now in the southernmost part of the region with our Fino Chiclana.
Okay.
The second wine is our Manzanilla.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Manzanilla is an interesting story because it's an appellation within the appellation. It can only be produced or aged basically in the town of Sanlúcar de Barrameda. Okay, the town of Sanlúcar de Barrameda is a little bit northern. It's next to the ocean. It's also a port city, and it's by the delta of the great Andalusian river, which is the Guadalquivir. It's the same river that goes all the way to Seville and so on. So it's also a very humid town, thanks to both the effects of the river and the ocean. And it's an ideal place to age biological aged wine, so manzanillas. The yeast loves humidity. It's a living organism that needs very high levels of humidity. And that's why, but at the same time, in the region, you could have grapes coming from another village and age it in Sanlúcar and still call it Manzanilla. For us, what we did was look for a winery that owned their vineyard within the Sanlúcar municipality, so within the limits of Sanlúcar, to make sure it was, let's say, 100% Manzanilla in that sense. And it's very interesting. The winery we work with has the winery the closest to the river. It's, I mean, you cross and you are on the beach of the river.
Oh, yeah, it's excellent. Yeah.
And so the levels of humidity are guaranteed throughout the year, even in the hottest months, and the yeast feels at home there.
Very happy.
Yeah, but what we want is also here is for a more evolved wine. It's a wine that is almost 6 years old on average compared to the Fino. Sorry, the Fino is 4, the Manzanilla is 5 to 6. And we're gonna get here more complexity as it's has a couple of more years of aging in the Solera system, and the level of yeast is also going to be more pronounced. Okay, so you get the bakery notes are going to be stronger here, despite we still have the fruity side, the apple, but here it's gonna be more red apple, more baked apple, coming from this extra aging.
Yeah.
Okay? The color, you also see the color. The color, if you put both head to head.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, the light here plays a little bit games, but it's definitely a darker, more gold, light gold color.
Yeah, the word complexity is the first that came to mind when you started your explanation. That's clearly there is a lot of different nuances in here. And the other one that came to my mind is the minerality here, minerality in this one. And also length, I would say. I mean, I would have to try the other one again, but I think this is also a longer.
Indeed. It's the soils here are also above 30% on their active caliza activa, so that's active limestone, I guess, which is very high. We are in the Apago being a limited area within the appellation that is called Miraflores, which is regarded probably as one of the stars, difficult to say which is the best, but one of the stars of Sanlúcar. We are here at an altitude which is, it's going to sound a little ridiculous, but it's we are around 50 to 60 meters above sea level. I know that people now talk about hundreds of meters above sea level. Here we are right by the ocean, and there's a huge difference if you are at 10 or at 50. Okay, the highest point in Jerez, not in Sanlúcar, but in Jerez would be 135 meters. By the coast where Sanlúcar is, I think the highest point would be 70. So it's important. It's important you get more the influence of the western winds. You get a fresher area. The heat does not rape the grapes in the ripening season. So it's a wonderful spot. It's so close from this. You can see the sea from the vineyard, and as you said, this limestone, this albariza brings this minerality, this umami, if you want, this. Which is also brought by the yeast. Let's not forget that it's a combination of both things. The terroir in the vineyard, key. You need the best grapes, and the best grapes are in the best vineyards, and with good vineyard management, which is important. And you also have the bodega or the winery terroir. Where is the bodega located? Where is this yeast that's going to protect the wine for 5 or 6 years? What condition is it going to grow? So I think here we are in this Manzanilla, we are in probably one of the best combinations of one of the best vineyards combined with one of the best locations for the winery. And yeah, it develops into a wonderful wine. It's complex, it's deep, it's long, but it still maintains this fantastic freshness that Manzanillas have to keep. So yeah, we're very, very happy with this wine.
Here in the area also, it's very, very important, the aspect of the vineyard, because if you have a vineyard which the aspect is west towards the sea, then you're okay. But if you have one where the aspect is facing east, and then it can happen in the summer that you get the Levante wind, which is the eastern wind, and you can get it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It makes people crazy. It's very, very dry and very strong. And if you have a vineyard facing east, and then you get 3-4 weeks of the Levante wind, it's gonna ruin probably the whole harvest. So this high, as Tommy was saying, 50 meters, or between 50 and 60 meters, which is high considering how close to the sea it is, and then facing west. So all the humidity from the ocean is basically, sort of irrigating, if you may, the vineyard throughout the summer.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Very, very, very interesting. Yeah. Very good.
So now we can jump quickly on another totally different style. You can see by the color. Okay, so we're moving from our Manzanilla. I'm going to use this side, better for the to our medium. Okay, or also known as Amoroso. Not allowed to use anymore by the appellation. This name, this beautiful name, Amoroso, which means it's oloroso, that has been sweetened or softened with some PX. Okay, that was something that was traditionally been done for many, since ever. Unfortunately, now we have to use the medium terminology.
Is that because of some European Union rules or what?
No, it's the local regulation body. Okay. But it's a pity because this was a wine that women used to like a lot.
Of course.
So the men would bring it to the woman, and that's why.
Me too.
Yeah.
But is there a reason why they did that? As far as
the Jerez, one of the maybe issues, but for me it's an enrichment, is that it's complex. You have a lot of terminology, you have a lot of different styles of wine, from extremely dry finos and manzanilla to the amontillados, the palo cortados, the olorosos, the sweets, the blends. So there were, I think the Consejo thought, or the appellation body thought there were too many and it was confusing for the consumer. So they decided to
simplify a bit.
Before you even have a fino amontillado, an amontillado fino, a manzanilla pasada, manzanilla amontillada. It was, you could have up to 25 or 30 categories of wines in a single bodega. And maybe they thought that to simplify things, which it's complicated, but all good.
It's also fun, yeah.
Things in life need a little effort. And, it's part of the game. But anyway, so here now we're moving to a winery in the center of Jerez city. They are right by the cathedral, right by the Alcázar, the castle, and it's a winery that's been in the business since 1830. It's they very artisanal producers, and what they make here, they make fantastic wines all over the range. But what we love is definitely their their Amoroso medium, which is an Oloroso that's, so an Oloroso, going back to our two big families, is those wines that have been fortified to a level of alcohol, usually 17 or slightly above, that will not allow the development of the floor. So it's wines that are going to be aged under oxidation since the beginning of their life. And here in this case, we're using a base, which is a 15-year-old Oloroso. So it's a wine that's been aged on average 15 years. So it means that there are part of these wines that are going to be 25, others are going to be 10, but the average is going to be 15. And then a 10% added of Pedro Ximénez. Okay, Pedro Ximénez being the grape that is used to make sweet wines. Okay? It's not a sweet grape, I mean, all grapes are sweet, yeah. But it's a grape that after picking or after harvest is dried under the sun for, it varies on the producer, but maybe from 1 week to 2 weeks. And you obtain then you obtain almost a raisin. You lose up to 80% of the water content, and then when you press, you will get a wine, a base wine or a mosto that is with enormous quantity of sugar, of concentration of the natural sugars in the grape. So that Pedro Ximénez, that PX, we add that 10% into this wine. It's a PX that is aged around 5 years in barrels, and then we combine the PX and the Oloroso, and it's aged for another 4 years. Okay, so we can say that this wine is around an average of 18 to 19 years old. And what we're gonna get here is of course, it's first a very dark color coming from this oxidative long aging. Okay, we're gonna get almost mahogany color just before jumping into a Lebanon. And what we're gonna get on the nose is a combination of both worlds, of the dry Oloroso with its oxidative notes of tobacco, box, of even of tea, and the PX notes of dates, of chocolate,
caramel,
and
say,
caramel, definitely. Okay, and so it's gonna even have a nose that seems to be sweeter than on the palate.
Yeah, and very complex again. Very good one.
Yeah.
Oh, this is something I happily drink, not spit. Yeah, I mean, it's very evolving. It's smooth. It's very silky in the palate. Here we are in the sweet categories. Okay, we are at around 80 grams of sugar per liter, but it's not thick. It really goes lovely. The acidity is fresh. The notes, the fruity notes of orange peels come back, but at the end you get again the sweetness of the PX with this caramel and chocolate coming back forward. So it's a fantastic wine that has many more occasions that people think. I love this as an aperitif. It really gets your stomach ready for then
it's
going to the
what you're saying.
dry styles.
Yeah, that's very interesting what you're saying. I'm going to try that, but because I would have thought, the first two wines, I thought more of those like an aperitif, a drier, and then this one I would have seen more like an end of meal thing. But
absolutely, I mean, for me the Finos and the Manzanillas, more than aperitif, they are, I mean, like a white wine. You can go all a light lunch or dinner with any kind of seafood or even poultry would go wonderful with the biological age wines. I don't think it's an aperitif. It's a white wine.
It's a white wine.
And a very dry wine. So the good thing is that you don't get tired of it. It's dangerously easy to drink, but maintaining an extremely high level of complexity and of enjoyment, which is where some white wines, well, I don't like to generalize, but the oxidative and especially the medium. Here, for example, in Jerez, it's very traditional to have a glass of Oloroso or Amoroso or medium before dinner or before lunch. Right. It's gonna awaken your taste bud. It's gonna warm you up, and then move to the phenols. So it's not because phenols are lighter that they should go before. As soon as you get into the meal, you can your palate is gonna cleanse. You can go back to a lighter version, and then absolutely as a end of meal, definitely that's also one of its best moments.
Or even by itself. I mean, I can see this having a glass of this at night, while I'm writing my notes or writing my next book, and with a clean mouth, silence, nobody around, and you just have a glass of this by itself with clean palate.
Absolutely. In my opinion, they are fantastic alternatives to brown spirits, and at less than half the alcohol content. These are the medium, the Olorosos are wines that work superbly on their own, or even if you want to add some nuts, not to, but they were fantastic as enjoyment wines or enjoyment drink. If you don't want to, maybe a whiskey or something, it's gonna be too much. These are wines. These are also the sugar content from this medium is 100% coming from the grapes. There's no addition of any kind of syrup, or anything to bring up the sweetness. So they're wonderful after meal wines, or after meal drinks, I would call them.
Traditionally in the area, the countryside people, laborers, they have them for breakfast as well. Very early breakfast. So they start the day, they meet at 5 in the morning to have breakfast before sunrise, and they all drink medium or Amoroso. Yeah, that's
sounds like
all the it's the
right energy.
Small towns. Yeah, it's a tradition in the area.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. This is very illuminating. It's quite a few new ideas we got there. Anything else you would like to add about your company or your wines? I mean, you have a broader range of wines, I understand as well, but this is a very good sample. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to taste them. And we will be in touch. Obviously, this will be published and shared with all our members in the association. I hope that next year we'll be able to meet in person in the London Wine Fair, or perhaps if I travel to Spain, I'll be in touch.
Please, Marco, we are big passionate about people coming here and actually visiting the vineyards, which is not the common practice in Jerez. Usually, when I've been working with Jerez producer for a long time. And the classic is always visiting the soleras, visiting the wineries, talking about the oak barrels and so on. And very rarely you visit the vineyards, and it's a key. It's the main differentiating factor. Of course, you have this very original aging system, which is the solera and criaderas. The wineries, don't get me wrong, they are outstandingly beautiful. The wine cathedrals.
Yeah,
I mean, they definitely worth the visit.
Definitely.
And understanding how in such a warm area you can engineer a building that can date 200 or 300 years old to keep that level of freshness and low temperatures. It's fascinating, but the vineyards are definitely unique. These soils here are something that that stand out, and they lovely sceneries. So really encourage people to always ask for the vineyards to be visited coming to Jerez.
Take a note of that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can finish with a couple of words on Solera. We mentioned it in passing a few times, but obviously this is a very well-known, but maybe not so well understood aspect of sherry making. Can you maybe in just a couple of minutes say, which wines you use for Solera and what sort of percentages? Give us a few highlights of the Solera method.
Yeah, so of course, there are also a small fraction of the wines in Jerez that are single vintage. Okay, those we will not talk when explaining the Solera. They exist, but they're very small. But then the right name actually is the Criadera and Solera, which are how to fractionally blend the wines. So vintage, year after year, you come up with a standard wine. But more than that is for example, for the finos and manzanillas, is the importance of refreshing the nutrients for the floor, for the yeast layers, or the microorganisms in the yeast, to feed themselves. Okay, that's people sometimes say, no, it's only to maintain a good quality wine standard. No, it's much more sophisticated than that. The yeasts need nutrients, they need oxygen, they need new wine coming in with those sugars, with those nutrients that they need to maintain the development of themselves. And that's why it's very important, especially for the finos and manzanilla, to keep this movement within the barrels. In Jerez, there's no total rule. Each winery will deal differently, but it's not uncommon to have one barrel being mixed at least 3 to 4 times a year. I'm talking about the finos and manzanillas. Some even refresh them monthly to make sure that the level of nutrients and the level of oxygen and the level on the right environment for the yeast to survive and to, well, not only survive, but have a good time, live happily. So
all your wines or not all of them? I mean, this is
all of our wines come from the Solera system. Yes.
All sherry is always produced through a Solera.
No, as Tommy was saying, there are some vintage.
Yeah, the vintages, but that's a very small. Yeah. Otherwise,
all the others, by Consejo or by the government body, they have to go through the Solera system. The minimum usually aging of a sherry wine is 2.5 years.
Okay.
And how do you measure that? For example, if you want to say or mention that your wine is 5 years old, you will always bottle, let's say, at 20% of your Solera. Okay? It's a mathematical rule, a little more complex, but let's say that if you take out 20% of the liquid of a barrel, and you refill it with fresh wine 20%, and you do that every year, you will maintain this average 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why, for example, a winery could not commercialize more than 30, I think it's 40% of their actual stock in a given year.
Because you need it in criaderas to stock up and to put.
Yeah, and you need to maintain always your minimum aging of 2.5 years. So if you one year you decide to bottle everything, then the next time you lower the wine to the, you are going to lose. You're gonna have wine which is the fresh wine next time. So that's why you always require to maximum bottle a percentage of your stocks. And that's why Jerez probably has the highest ratings of stocks per sale in the wine. It's
thank you. That's very good, very clear. I mean, I know it's yeah, the formula can be a bit complicated, but the principle is fairly straightforward. You know, you want to, as you said, refresh and feed your older wines with new wine, and that way you keep a sort of chain that lasts indefinitely. I suppose in some Soleras you will have a few drops of wine that extremely.
There's legends of this Solera that was started 300 or 400 years ago and is still operative, because again, it's also key that the barrels you use, all barrels, all wood. The wood does interacts, of course, with the wine, the porosity of the wine, of the wood and so on, but you don't want the wood to play a too big role in the flavors of the wine. And also very important is what we call here the cabezuelas. So it's the dead yeasts that are going to be forming a sediment in the layer of the bota. That's gonna bring also this sappiness that we were talking about in the wines. It's like in a champagne, a sparkling is the lees.
Yeah, the lees.
Okay, so those are tremendously important.
Yeah, thank you. And do you need to change the actual barrels after 100 years, 150 years? These barrels are the wood.
Here we are lucky to still count with a reduced but still existing fantastic corporate activity. The barrel makers and they repair the barrels constantly, all the time. So especially in some bodegas, they have their own people specialized in that, which is a beautiful craftsman activity that thankfully they're still active. And no, you will always try to repair.
When you repair a barrel, that you take the wine out and you fix the barrel and then you put it back in. That's the way you have to work. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yes. You need to take it out. Yeah.
So they last forever, basically. I mean, they can go for.
We worked the winery for our medium. I think actually it was started. The founder in 1830 was actually a copper. No, you say a tonelero?
Coppersmith.
A cooper.
A coppersmith.
One who makes
Who are making the barrels, and in the winery they still have most of the barrels with what the founder started.
They started, okay.
So it's and yes, if you go to other historical wineries, they will always have their
preferred
very old.
Yeah. Any preferred wood that is used for this?
Yeah.
American.
I would say that yes, 95 or plus is going to be white American oak.
Okay.
That's been the tradition. There's also a little percentage, actually our manzanilla, there's a percentage of the barrels which are chestnut.
Okay.
But I would say that the big common is white American oak.
Excellent. Thank you very much. This was most informative and fun to do with you.
Thank you.
I'll put this on the website and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
See you soon.
Thank you very much, Marco.
Take care.
Thank you, Marco.
Have a good day.
You too.
You too.
Bye.